All right, today on the Buttoned Up Podcast, we have George Laboda from the Gents Lounge and various other things that he does, and we're excited to learn about his story today. Welcome, George.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Absolutely. So I had a chance to say hi at Influential. I know you and Brock had known each other through that platform, and I know you're an Erie guy, so I wanted to start off with your early days.
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town called Erie, Pennsylvania. It's like close to everything that's kind of cool, but not really that close. So it's like an hour and a half from Buffalo, an hour and a half from Pittsburgh, and an hour and a half from Cleveland, which, you know, Pittsburgh's probably the coolest one out of that section. But yeah, so there wasn't much, I guess, fashion going on in my small town. Like my town was pumped when we got an Abercrombie and Fitch or an Old Navy for the first time. So that was like a big event for the town. So growing up, I didn't really have, I guess, a sense of, I guess, the New York, LA type fashion, but I kind of found my niche and figured out how to dress well with what I was working with in a small town.
Well, so that's really interesting. So, were you also growing up wearing like skater tees and that sort of thing? That's how you rocked it?
Yeah, so I was actually like kind of an emo kid growing up. Like I used to wear girl pants because they did not make slim fit jeans for dudes back in 2002 and 2003. So like girl jeans were like the way you could find skinny jeans. And then I was kind of, like a punk rock hardcore kid, honestly, up until still am at heart, but I just don't dress that way anymore.
That's crazy. We've actually heard that from a lot of people we've interviewed that they were like in a totally different like genre, in high school or even in college. Like, they were into skating or they were into punk or just kind of like a totally something you wouldn't associate them with now, because now you look at your kind of online persona and it's like very, classy and higher end and sort of refined. So that's interesting to hear.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, but like style is kind of transcendent of genres. So, if you care about how you look, you want to fit into the hardcore genre. You wear, tight black jeans and the right shoes. And, there's kind of a uniform that goes with it. And then you kind of expand from there, like any other style. Like if you want to dress well in the menswear space, you start out by getting a few suits and some ties. And then you can experiment with tailoring and your patterns and figure out a way to stand out in that uniform per se.
And did your transition from, I guess, into a different aesthetic or a different realm, did that correlate with like a physical transition, like, leaving your hometown, or was that later on?
Well, I would say I kind of had a lot of different friend groups. So I used to ride BMX bikes as well. So I had like my BMX bike friends. Then I had like my music kind of punk rock hardcore friends. And then I also played hockey. So when I was playing hockey, we always had to dress up and wear suits and shirts and ties to every game. So that's kind of where I got the menswear aspect. And I did care about style throughout. So I wanted to look good. Even if I wasn't in ripped jeans and a band tee, I still wanted to look good in the shirt and tie. So I started to care kind of early high school and then just kind of, what I had to work with. I guess Express was kind of the high end menswear store of my town. So, that's what I thought was cool when I tried to copy what they were doing on the mannequins. And then you kind of realize that, retail stores kind of don't necessarily have the best grasp on a menswear aesthetic, depending on what you're looking for.
Well, they've got the aesthetic of most of those companies were based out of Columbus, Ohio, so they've got the Midwest aesthetic, but they're missing those two sides of the coast.
Exactly. I mean, you can tell because, I mean, even if you go inward, probably 4 or 5 hours from LA or New York, you start to see, it looks a lot the same in the middle of America. The South has its own kind of style, but anywhere north of the South, in between LA and New York, is very, very similar with like little pockets of different flair, I would say.
So you had your emo life, BMX, hockey, and that got you into suits. How do you get out to LA from Erie?
So from Erie, I decided that, well, actually, I wanted to be a potter. Like I wanted to do pottery as my college major. And my mom was like, hell no, you're never going to make any money doing that. So she's like, you got to do something else. So I decided I was into like making BMX videos and doing that kind of thing. So I was like, I'll go to film school. I'll see where that goes. And my whole plan was to either, make movies or work in TV or do something out in California. And honestly, California just seemed really nice because there was no snow anymore. So I searched kind of, I guess, colleges that had what I was looking for, and Long Beach State came up as one of the options. So came out to visit, checked it out. Turns out they have a pretty good film program. And then I kind of made the commitment to move across the country right after high school.
When I think, like, you might have experienced this too, is when I watched Disney Channel movies growing up, all of the kids went to these high schools that were outdoors, and then you found out they were in California, and it's like that kind of planted the seed, or like Rocket Power.
No, exactly. Actually, I didn't even ever put two and two together that people didn't go to school indoors and like they were allowed to be outside in the quad for lunch. Like I just thought, maybe that's some weird like avant-garde school that teachers aren't as strict, because they like literally locked us in our school until 3 p.m. and then you got out. If you left, you got suspended.
Oh, I know. That was definitely, especially the last few years of my high school was that way.
Different worlds.
It's crazy. And like all the lockers are outside. The classrooms are pretty much like storage units that they've built into classrooms. And
so you were basically sold on California when you got there.
Oh yeah, I mean, as soon as I went to visit before I actually decided to go there, so I was there for a week, and I went to the beach. The weather was awesome. Toured the campus and met a few people that were actually pretty cool right off the bat, who kind of actually ended up being my roommates and good friends through college. So it just kind of worked out like it was meant to be,
Yeah, that's awesome. And you studied film?
Yeah, I went to film school, so I was doing film production, and I wanted to focus on the editing aspect because that's what I really had a passion for.
Nice. Well, that kind of plays into what you're doing now. It seems like a lot of people study something in college. It's completely different than what they're doing. But that's pretty closely related. I mean, what'd you do immediately after graduating?
So while I was at Long Beach State, I interned for Discovery Channel, and then as soon as I graduated, they hired me on as a assistant editor for a show called Tech Toys 360, and it's kind of like How It's Made, except we got to do like Ferraris and Lamborghinis instead of like tinfoil and CDs. So it was an amazing experience to be how old was I when I graduated college? 22-year-old kid just at the Ferrari and Lamborghini factory, hanging out with the people making these things that what you thought you could never afford as a small town kid from Erie,
That's awesome. Man, actually, Discovery Channel had I grew up in Silver Spring, just outside of DC, and they used to have a headquarters there. And I lived right next to it, and it was so many people in that area worked for Discovery. And so, you'd meet somebody and be like, oh yeah, I'm working on, the Animal Planet Puppy Bowl. Like, that sounds like an amazing place to work.
So yeah, that's actually still where their headquarters are, and we actually worked out of a satellite office in LA for a while, and then actually they decided to pick up and move the production to New York, which is kind of how AtlasandMason and Gents Lounge got started.
Well, that's a good segue. So tell us about that.
So basically, I started AtlasandMason while I was working for Discovery Channel, and it was supposed to be just kind of like a creative side project clothing company that I had total control over, because I actually became the head editor of the show after the second season for the Discovery Channel, and I had so many producers just telling me how things should look and how things should be edited that I felt like I wasn't actually editing. I was just being the hands for someone else that wanted to put their vision on the screen. So I had needed something that had, I guess, my own stamp of approval on it. So I started AtlasandMason, and basically we just did like small leather goods, belts, wallets, a few t-shirts, I think a lapel pin and some pocket squares here and there. I didn't have a huge budget to start, so I started with some one-size-fits-all stuff. And then actually Gents Lounge was supposed to be the blog for the clothing company. So Gents Lounge was always the idea to be the blog for AtlasandMason. Like when you came to the site, Gents Lounge would be the separate section that had its own kind of advice and tips and tricks, and exactly what it is now. It's just on a bigger scale than I could have ever imagined back then.
How early into AtlasandMason do you meet Blake?
So I was running AtlasandMason for about 2 years at the time. So that, I guess I'd met Blake probably 5 years ago. So I actually threw probably the first ever blogger brunch, and I put together an event for a few bloggers and a few of my friends that actually paid admission to get in. So I put together like a 4-course meal. I rented out a house and, had drinks. Everything was obviously included in the price, but my friends paid like $45 to come out and support the new collection that we put out. And I invited a few LA bloggers that Blake had like, I think 7,000 followers on Instagram at the time. And I was like, oh my God, this guy's huge. If he comes out, it's going to be amazing. And so Blake came out, we chatted pretty much the whole barbecue because I sat him next to me strategically because I wanted to meet him and kind of pick his brain a little bit. And honestly, after that, so that barbecue was in August, and then we didn't talk again until a Christmas party that we happened to be at through a mutual friend. And I pitched him the idea of Gents Lounge. Like, I was like, look, I can create all these videos. I can create the content. Just bring your, and then so I was like, look, I can create these videos. I can create the content. And I was like, look, you bring your now 25,000 followers at the time over to this platform so somebody actually watches the thing, and we'll do this together and we'll split it 50-50. And then that's kind of how Gents Lounge got going.
That's really cool, man. I had no idea. Yeah, it's interesting that, it started as kind of like a content marketing play to like sell your own products, but then it became the product, or like it became the, more of like a bigger part of the business, which I feel like that's something that happens these days, is that the content actually becomes so popular that it's more of like a lucrative business than, the products.
Exactly. And I mean, honestly, you learn really quickly to pivot with what's working when you have no money and you're trying to figure out how to make your way in the world. So definitely it was kind of Gents Lounge was working. We started to be getting more and more money. So I put AtlasandMason on hold, which I'm still mildly sad about. And I'm definitely thinking about bringing it back in the future because now Gents Lounge is doing good. And I just want another little creative outlet personally. But yeah, you kind of learn to pivot with, what's working, and the content happened to be working. Obviously, sometimes it works the opposite way. Like the Gentleman's Gazette, he pushes more product, he pushes his website a ton because that's where all the revenue is. And he was saying that the revenue from the website actually took over the revenue from the YouTube channel, which it used to be reversed. So, I mean, sometimes it works in different ways.
Yeah, it's so true. I think a lot of people assume that, if they see big numbers on Instagram or big numbers on YouTube, they're like, oh, that's where this person, that's where the real business is coming from. But a lot of the times you don't really know. I mean, I have a YouTube channel and a website, and for me, the website's still a more important part of the business just in terms of revenue. Even though the YouTube channel probably looks a little more impressive, to the untrained eye, I guess.
Right. I mean, obviously no one can see your analytics or what you're doing on the back end, but people think that our YouTube is less important than our Instagram because we have 500,000 followers on Instagram and we only have like 96,000 on YouTube. But YouTube is the biggest part of our business. It was always the focus, and Instagram just happened to kind of blow up in the first few years for us. But we still focus on YouTube a little bit more, honestly, than we focus on Instagram.
And when did you jump in full time?
So we started Gents Lounge in 2014. And then I would say I was working as a valet, actually, because my Discovery Channel job moved to New York. So I was valeting cars, doing Gents Lounge, and trying to keep AtlasandMason afloat. And then I'd say a year after we started Gents Lounge, so probably 2015, I went full time and was able to make enough money to at least pay my rent. And I actually found a way to keep my bills super low because, I had a few roommates and I wasn't overly spending on, I didn't have a car payment or anything crazy like that. So I was able to live very frugally.
Yeah, that helps when you're first getting started. Because California is, it's expensive. It's very expensive, and compared to other states.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And I always tell people that once you start making money as a business or whatever, and you think you're doing well, just keep your mindset as if you're still poor as hell. Because the moment you think oh, I'm doing well, I can spend extra money on this and extra money on that. Those little extra, couple $100 payments everywhere really add up very, very quickly. So, if you can keep your rent as low as you can for as long as you can, I highly recommend it. Even if you can afford, $2,500 a month in rent, but you can pay 700, pay 700 because you're going to have all that extra leeway and room to kind of move and put money into things, into the business.
Well, and by now you probably have to have a second room rented for your wardrobe.
Yeah, so we actually bought office space 2 years ago. We had like 1,500 square feet in downtown LA, and we were talking about and spending all this money trying to make it look like an apartment. That we were like, well, why don't we just get an apartment? So we recently just moved offices, and now we have a 2-bedroom loft in downtown LA. And the second bedroom is actually just our whole office space that we had in the 1,500 square feet. And then the living room was all the furniture we had in the original office. So it just kind of took over. And now I can wake up, work from home, edit here. Blake lives 2 blocks away. It's a much better situation right now.
That's the LA YouTube dream right there.
Right?
Yeah, congratulations. When I started my channel, I made like a list of YouTube channels that I was looking at, and Brock's was on there and yours was on there. And at the time, I think you guys had like 15,000 subscribers or something. So it's really cool to see how you've grown in that time.
Yeah, I mean, we've tried to stay very, very authentic throughout the process because, I mean, it's so easy to just take the paycheck and kind of sell out these days. But it's just kind of always been about giving good advice and doing minimal sponsored videos, just enough to kind of keep the YouTube channel going and whatnot, and really only working with companies we believe in and actually use on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's an uphill battle. It's so true. I mean, once you pass, 20,000 subscribers or something, I mean, a lot of these brands are, literally throwing money at you, to promote stuff that you don't really want to promote. So I commend you guys for doing that. That's awesome. I think we need more of that on YouTube.
No, we definitely do. And I mean, Brock, you're honestly also one of the dudes that's super, super authentic. I mean, you are honestly the only person that I've ever seen on Instagram being like, here's a picture of this shirt. I can't recommend it to you, but if you want a cheaper shirt, it's a good option. I was like, holy shit, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's a good way to get a brand not to send you anything anymore.
Your integrity's there, and that's what people want to see, I would imagine. Like, we obviously just don't put out or wear or promote the product that we don't like. People send us stuff all the time that never make it on the channel, but
yeah,
like to actually put something out like that and say, hey, I can't recommend this to you, but if you're looking for an option that's budget friendly or whatever, it probably would be a good option for, like a summer trend.
Yeah. John and I talk about that a lot. It's all about that integrity, and I think there's different ways to do it, but yeah, I think people pick up on that, whether you're doing it that way or just, kind of not talking about stuff you don't like. I think people pick up on that and really appreciate that, especially kind of in the current climate.
Right, definitely. I mean, I think I honestly that people leave us comments all the time and they're just like, how come you only talk about things you like, or how come you only say good things about stuff? It's like, because I don't promote things that I don't like. Like, what did you want me to just talk shit on something so I can honestly just come back and it's not my job to tear down a brand. I just won't talk about them if I don't like them. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's not my position to be like, these are terrible products. I just won't talk about them. And if I don't talk about them, buy the ones that I'm talking about.
Some people do want that, though. Some people do want to see the world burn. But I think...
Yeah, I know. Some people want the negative. And I'm just like, it's, people are working hard on their business, whether it's a crap product or not. And I don't know. I just don't think it's my position to take that away from them.
Oh, yeah, totally. But I also think that the money that you eschew in saying things like, this isn't something I recommend, you build more value than that with the audience by having that sort of direct dialogue because they appreciate it so much.
Of course. And I mean, I actually recently just did like a hair product video where I reviewed all the hair products that people sent me, and I told the people, I was like, look, honestly, I can make my hair look good with any of these products because if you just use enough hair product and you have a blow dryer, you can pretty much get any effect you want. But it's about how much hair product you have to use to get that effect and the value of the cost and the ingredients inside. So you got to think about a whole bunch of other stuff other than just, the cost and the brand you're looking into.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. So what do you do? I'm just curious, just personally, what do you do with all the stuff that you're saying? Because I'm always struggling with take a lot of stuff to Goodwill, but then with grooming products, just have drawers full of stuff. And what do you guys do with all that stuff?
Yeah, I'm with you on the drawers full of grooming products. I keep a lot of the stuff that I like, and then I have a lot of friends who aren't in the industry, which is also helpful because they can kind of come over and just have a little shopping day at my house.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah,
that's cool.
I mean, it's tough because it really fills up quickly when you're getting, 2 to 3 packages a day of stuff.
Right. Yeah, hard to be a minimalist in this industry.
I mean, yeah, I literally went through my closet and I have 7 denim jackets and I wear one of them. I'm like, why am I keeping these? But you think in your head when you have the YouTube channel and whatnot, you think, well, if I ever want to do a distressed denim jacket versus a raw denim jacket versus a cheaper denim jacket, I'll have all these ready to go.
Yeah, exactly. So how have things changed for you guys recently, or is there anything that you're doing, I guess, end of this year, second half of this year that you're excited about?
Recently, we've been talking about doing just kind of more, I guess, giving back to our followers while being creative ourselves. So we're talking about working with, a few different companies to do different collaborations. Like we were talking about buying a barrel of whiskey from one of our favorite whiskey brands and then kind of having a Gents Lounge single barrel going on. And it would just kind of be, either gifts for our favorite brands we work with or people that win like YouTube contests or whatnot. And then we were thinking about doing a small run of custom leather goods through a few of our friends who make custom leather products. So just trying to help get their name out there while throwing a little creative input into some stuff. So that's kind of the thing that we're working on, just working with people we like and doing some fun stuff and just kind of building a little bit of more brand recognition, I guess.
Very cool. And do you have, so for someone like just getting into it, who's just still at like the audience building stage, do you have any advice currently, here in 2018 for someone who's trying to build an audience on Instagram or YouTube?
Make friends with people that are at the same level with you and do as much joint collaboration as you can. That's honestly the best way to grow because hopefully, somebody with 5,000 followers and somebody with 3,000 followers, half those people aren't following both of you. So if you guys can get together and you relate to their audience and they relate to your audience, it's just kind of works out as a good audience building platform. And I would say don't take the small paychecks that kind of hurt your integrity and just work on affiliate marketing. There's a ton of stuff where you can just find links like RewardStyle or Amazon or any of that, and you can still make a portion of sales of things you actually like and actually promote that aren't sponsored. Because I think I just got an Instagram DM the other day from a kid. He's like, this watch company wants to sponsor me. What do you have advice on? How should I talk to them? And I was like, okay, what's the watch company first? And he sent me this link, and it was obviously just some drop ship watch company that's selling $5 China watches for $100 to $150. And I'm like, look, they're probably not really good quality. If you need watches that look good in photos and they're offering you free watches, I would say maybe take a look at them, but don't guarantee them anything. And he's like, oh my God, that's like really good advice. I didn't really notice that. And I was like, but when you're a younger blogger growing in this industry, you don't kind of look at that stuff. Like I remember I got a email from a similar company. I was like, oh my God, these watches look dope. And I didn't really know much about watches, 5-6 years ago. So I was like, this is dope. I like the way they look. They're automatic, which I've heard was a good thing. And then you kind of come to realize where all these things come from, and you know how much they actually cost and the worth and their actual value.
That's a great one. I think that's fantastic advice. So, George, we do a rapid fire segment where we give you some quick questions, 1 or 2 word answers, and then we like to just go across all of our guests. You ready for that?
Yeah, hit me.
All right. Oxfords or brogues?
Bros.
Morning shower or evening shower?
After the gym.
Okay. Your favorite Bond actor?
Daniel Craig.
Cardio or lifting?
Lifting.
Spring, summer, or fall, winter?
Fall, winter.
Navy suit or charcoal suit?
Navy.
And if you're getting in the shower, or actually if you're taking that shower after the gym and you're trying to get pumped up for the rest of your day, what's the song you're listening to?
Ooh, that's tough.
It could be timely or timeless.
Pumped up for the day. Maybe a little Tupac.
Okay. All right.
Nice.
And then, so you're talking about watches. What's a wristwatch check? Do you have anything on now?
I just literally got out of the shower, but I will say that my Parmigiani is my favorite watch in my collection.
Beautiful.
Very nice. What are you wearing today, John?
Boring. I got the Seamaster on. Same as always.
Why take it off?
I do have the Todd Snyder Timex collaboration sitting on my desk right now.
Oh, I see that. I get that ad constantly on Instagram. It's like they know I'm about to buy it.
Do they send you the one with the swirly in the middle, or the one with the plainer face? Because I get both the sponsored posts as well.
I get the spiral one.
Yeah, that's the one I got sitting on my desk.
Very nice. Cool. Well, George, thanks for coming on the show. If people want to find you, where should they go?
Yes, thank you for having me, guys. This was a lot of fun. At AtlasandMason on Instagram, or at Gents Lounge on Instagram, and then YouTube is Gents Lounge, or gentslounge.com will get you to me.
Sounds great. Well, we'll look forward to seeing what you and Blake are up to in the future, and we'll have to catch up sometime soon.
Thank you for listening to the Buttoned Up Podcast, a collaboration between John Shanahan of The Cavalier and Brock McGough of Modest Man, and we will see you next week.